You're listening to Story Struck. I'm Rachel, an editor and writing coach.
And I'm Nino, a ghostwriter and book coach. Welcome to our curious community where we dive into everything books and writing.
Now, let's get into the episode.
Hello and welcome everybody to this episode of our podcast that just flipped my mind for some reason.
Well, yeah, it's been too long since season one, right?
Oh my gosh. Anyways, welcome to Story Struck. There it is. Found it. Today we have the wonderful Maite Dalila, who is a brand strategist and web designer specifically for authors. And as you might know, both Rachel and I come from a marketing and branding background. So whenever we talk to authors, we're just like, oh, yeah, we're so ready. And then sometimes we go on websites and we're like, oh, it's not a good representation of how awesome they are. So when I connected with Maite, I was so freaking pumped because this is something that so many authors struggle with. And so I cannot wait to discuss all this awesome stuff with you today. We're going to talk archetypes. We're going to have examples. I hope you're watching this on YouTube because this one's going to have lots of visuals for it to really give you an idea of how to embody your brand as an author or embody like the branding of your specific book. Because I know you talked about that before. So let's dive in. Rachel, do you want to take it away? Maybe. How about you introduce yourself and before I start taking over some more? I'm getting my sea legs.
So I'm Maite. I've been a designer since 2013, so a little over 12 years. Like my career before focusing on authors was UX design and brand strategy. So I worked in the tech world, and funny enough, tech world like Disney, Samsung, Mercedes, IDEO, Nike, so really, really big brands. And the funny thing is, they all use storytelling in order to sell products from like mattresses to soaps. So I'm like, I love the storytelling aspect of it. I hate the corporate side. So I was like, why shouldn't I go to the source and help the people who are actually inspiring all of these, like for profit brands? And so last year I did a pivot, took a leap of faith, and just opened the design studio. And I'm basically sharing all the trade secrets. And you really don't need a big budget, or you just need to know like a few things, and I broke it down in a way that's so simple. And I taught other designers to do it. I've done like 4 boot camps on this. So like I've learned how to say it in a way that empowers, authors in order to feel like they can do it themselves. And obviously there's resources and everything, but yeah, that's a little bit about me.
That's great. And like we nerd out on all the branding, all the marketing, because it's such an essential piece. But I think it's number one, it's very overwhelming for
Mhm.
people to think about. And like number two, it just seems kind of like an afterthought. And like, I don't want to do that. That's boring. I don't really need to worry about that. But as we know, right, you need to start marketing yourself, building your brand before your book's even out there.
Yes.
Whether it's your first book or your 20th book, you need to be marketing that book like way, way ahead, right? Because you want to build up anticipation for it. You want to get eyeballs on it, pre-orders going, and be able to roll with that momentum once it comes out. And something that like I've noticed from kind of the editor side of talking with people, and I'm sure you have as well, when whether they're deciding to do traditional self-publishing, hybrid publishing, knowing your brand is essential for the book that you're creating. Because I see that so often where, there's genre conventions and your brand has to go in line with that. So, like, I originally was like, I'm going to write cozy mysteries. But then I realized that I like to write darker. So my branding had to change because cozy mystery Rachel is not going to go with, dark epic fantasy readers. You'd be like, what is this? And so knowing those things helps you in your writing process, in your querying process, in the whole design process. Knowing your branding and your archetype early on in the game is just going to be wonderful. So I'd love to like kind of hear your thoughts on that from your side with the marketing.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you said that because I see this with authors all the time. Like they start saying, like, oh, I need a website. That's like the number one thing. But there's like so many things that you need before that. And they only think about it when they're like, oh, I just finished my book and I need a launch. And I was like, you should have been doing this yesterday. And there's like, I actually have like a full year's worth of content of like for free for like the marketing part of like finding your niche. Because it's true. Like you need to find your archetype so people would be like, that is who I connect with. Like find your tribe, find your people. So when you find out who you are as like a brand archetype, then it's so much easier and it makes it so less awkward to share your stuff. And that's the thing. Like, I know it feels so awkward. I feel awkward all the time. Like, hey, this is what I do. But when I'm sharing things that excites me and I'm like, oh, look what I did for this person or this, and it becomes like a genuine, like, here's my process or something I really love doing, then it's sort of you just like, it's like gifting it to other people to find you and find your people. So if you like shift the narrative that way, it's just becoming a magnet of the people that you want to hang out with anyways. Rather than like this sort of like salesy, like, like I just did this book, buy it. So I did create this like framework. Like a lot of people are like, I finished my book. Now I'm going to go into marketing. And you're like, what is marketing? And they haven't set the foundation. So like I did this winter, I was like, how do I say it in a way that everyone remembers it? So it's you want to do an arc, ARC. So arc is your archetype. You need to find out what your personality is, and then I'll give you the visual literacy of how to translate that into your voice and your promise. And then the next one is like your realm. So you need to build your realm where you want to invite people in, which is your website. And you have to have it purposeful, right? Like if in your realm you have a garden, you want it to seem like the purpose is it to like get a garden or like, a castle, like to go to the ball, like have a reason why. And that's each page of your website. And then the last one is connect with your niche, and that's marketing. But you need to have your aesthetic, your like archetype and your realm set in order to invite people in there. Because if you invite people to a party and the party has no theme and it has no aesthetic, you're like, why am I here? And you sort of like dip out because you're like, this is a little awkward. And you did all this work, like the marketing is the hardest part. And like if you get people through the door, don't lose them. And this is sort of where the archetype is so important, which we're going to talk about all about today, and like hopefully inspire to like at least define it so you know what path it is, and then you can sort of personalize it.
I love how you put that because I was as a reader, we are walking around bookstores like, oh, what's our next book that we're going to read? And sometimes you just see a book cover and you're like, that is my next book. You don't know what it is. You're just like, I'm in the fantasy section and I like this book with a dagger on it. So let me read it. And it's just literally done that so many times. And so like whenever you're like, oh, let me explore this author, or you come across this author and stuff, and you go to their website and their whole website's just like, I want to live in their website, because I know some of the ones that I saw that you had done. I'm just like, can I move here? Can I move into this website? Because this is so beautiful. I want to live in this land, like you said. And also, so many authors, I'm sorry, I'm really pumped about this, think that they have to have a corporate website or a super simple website. And they're just like, oh, well, I don't want to be, I want to be taken seriously, stuff like that. But as an author, as a creative, especially if you're creating a website for your fantasy brand, right, for your fantasy work and stuff, like you can have so much fun with it and such. And you want to have fun with it. It's not like you have, the book cover is just the name of your book and just like a little squiggle of something. Like, no, you put a lot of intention. The aesthetic has to embody the energy of what this book is. Because when you have a book cover and a story that do not match, you can have the best story in the world, but if your book cover is garbage, then a lot of people are not going to read it. You're going to miss out on a huge amount of people. And so it's the same thing with your website. And especially, I think, if you're self-publishing, like with traditional publishing, yes, because unfortunately we have to do a lot of our own stuff these days, even with traditional publishing. But if you do not have a team that's advising and supporting you, and you're doing this all on your own, it's even more important to really have that strong website design, that as soon as people see you on TikTok talking about your book and they go to your website to learn more about you, they're like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with her. You know what I mean? So I really, really love how you set that up, because with working with people's websites as copywriters, Rachel and I have seen how people, like, you can have the best copy in the world, but if your website is crap, people are going to opt out. They're going to be like, this looks like it was designed in the 90s, and they're going to bounce right out. And they're not even going to read anything. And so to have that structure to help people who have never been in this realm at all, and then to put it in book terms because they're like, and this is your realm. I'm just like,
Yes. Oh my god, yeah, it was so fun. And like from a psychology perspective, right? Images evoke so many different emotions in us. It
Mhm.
just like makes us connect with things. So like I can't wait to see like the visual representation. And that's something like I try to do because I just have a coming soon page now on my website. And I try to evoke the background imagery of like the kind of scene and almost what I picture as the back like cover of my book of like walking in like kind of this like mystical forest. And I was
Mm.
like, all right, at least that gives a little bit of a vibe versus just like a plain color on the background. And then also the word choice we use, right? Like we were just talking about copy of making your personality come across. Like your website, you could, gain inspiration from other people. You like, I like this, I like that. Ooh, I definitely don't like that. And like all of that feeds in, but you have to be you. And that's what makes people come to us versus, the million other fantasy books or romance books or cozy mystery books. They come for you and your personality. And so to make sure you have that come across in your colors, your imagery, and also your copy. Like I'm very quirky and funny. And so on my website, like my business one, but also my author one, I try to inject that personality. So that way when they read that and then they go read my books, like, yeah, that's Rachel. Like, you know what I mean?
Yes, yeah. I love that you said that as well. Great, great points. And adding on to that, like on the web, you only have really like 3 seconds before someone decides if they're gonna stay or not. Like people have 1,000 tabs open, kids, dogs, cats, like literally so much going on. If you're not showing your authentic self and things that really, really excite you, why would it excite someone else? So, like, it's something you should have fun with it. You are a creative. Use that image that makes you feel like you're in your world because you are world building and you're inviting them into the world first before you invite them into the story. So, I absolutely agree with that. And I'll show you so many examples using the same exact framework, using copywriting and how you can like just layer it in and less is more. You know what I mean? Like this is where like I have a huge admiration for writers like long form. Like I'm better at short form because there's so much constraint, but you have to be so purposeful with every word because people on the web scan. And so you're literally doing like a choose your own adventure on your website. And you can have Easter eggs. You can really like once I show you the basics, then you can really really run with it and like make it your own. So there's so much opportunity. I'm so excited to share.
yeah. Okay. Let's talk about your archetypes because I love a good archetype. Everyone knows I'm obsessed with mythology and like stuff like that. So like I love that you put it in archetypes because that makes my brain happy and helps me understand where the aesthetics go. Because again, I'm the word person. We've both done copywriting a lot, but then the design stuff, we're like, well, I know what my eyeballs like, but to encapsulate it within an archetype is just so awesome. So tell us about your archetypes.
Perfect. So like remember how I told you like you have your archetype, realm, and connect. And so there's 6 archetypes that I created and they're best on like bestsellers, on known patterns, on psychology. So the first one is like using color. And I'll tell you, well, first walk you through it. You have the hero, which is all about like the strength and courage, the rebel, about pushing boundaries normally, the lover, like intimacy and connection, the dreamer, normally like imagination, wonder, escape, the sage, which is wisdom and truth, and the visionary, which is all about future possibility and change. And these, again, this is just the starting point, and you can mix and match, and I'll tell you how you can mix and match. So there's really 3 things that, in terms of like visual literacy, that I sort of want to like share. And have you guys been know the term visual literacy?
Like I've heard it a little bit in marketing lingo, but definitely not top of mind.
Absolutely. So, like, the way that I see it is visual literacy is sort of the ability to read images and like design and the way that you read language. So it's sort of like how we instinctively know that like blue communicates strength and courage or traditional. Like that's why a lot of banks use blue. Or purple was like a color that was very hard to get back in the medieval times. So it's like known for like royalty or mysticism. So there's things that we know through just culturally that we know long before it even registers into words. So that's what you're saying about like psychology, why like an image can instinct like immediately make you feel something. Or like when you wear red, you feel more confident, or like a little bit more rebellious, or like maybe you're a little bit more subdued and don't want to be noticed, so you wear black, or like trying to be more serious. It's how we interpret things emotionally, not logically. And so, for example, like I use these colors as like a sort of a baseline. How can we interpret it? So colors is basically when you choose colors, I say this is what I'll get into that. Let me get into fonts. And then fonts are basically, this is a really fun thing. It's basically typography in voice. So like, for example, it's typography made visual or voice made visual, sorry. So for example, like the hero, it's more like, a little bit more modern and traditional. So we use like a sans serif, or the rebel, it's like more about impact and a little bit not, it's sort of against society, having like bold things that are non-traditional. The lover, normally something that's a script, like handwritten, right? It's very intimate and you can use that. The dreamer, you can use like a little things like that are a little bit more display that have like a medieval feel. The sage normally is about knowledge, right? And like knowing things. So like a serif, like a Times New Roman, things that like sort of show authority and that you can trust the information. Like for example, you wouldn't put a legal document in a Comic Sans. Right? That's sort of like how different, you won't trust the document. And then the visionary is normally like future thinking, like a sans serif that's like very clean or minimal, is what you use. And then as going back to the third element is imagery. So images is basically sets the mood, like you said. And this is where I use like AI with like the Fox to sort of show how different an image, like saying, doing the same portrait, but in the different archetypes, how you communicate it, how different it can be. Because we're not just choosing pretty photos, we're shaping emotion. So, for example, like the hero here is like direct, confident, and steady. It's like that classic portrait. The rebel, it's like breaking the mold, right? You have like an unexpected demand attention by like doing something unconventional. And then like the lover, right? You have that dreamy, ethereal, almost cinematic, full of like imagination. The sage is like grounded, right? It's contemplating, thinking about things before speaking. And like the visionary is sort of like that tech future. Every tech person in their like a TED talk or probably has like an image like this where they're like looking ahead and it's like using, a little bit moody, but more like sleek and modern. So the three things that you should worry about is color, font, and images. And then you can actually mix and match. So let's say like, oh, my voice is more like a rebel, but my style is the lover and my like promise of what you're going to feel is the dreamer. Then you can mix and match. And that's how it creates depth. And like, that's how like I created that framework. Cause like, we're not all one thing. Like maybe I am a little bit
thing. I'm like, oh, well, my Loki book that I'm writing, I'm like, Loki's vibe is more of this, but then also like this is a huge aspect of it. And then just like, so it's like the sage and the rebel put together. I'm like,
exactly. And then that's what creates depth, right? Like, or like creates like very interesting villain characters. Like I love
yeah,
anti-hero characters, like you sort of love them, like Loki. So
yep.
like you want that sort of a mix. Like you can have the purist, but like I feel like that mix, this is how you mix it up. Like you said that your voice is quirky, but you do dark. You know what I mean? Like you can play with the font and then it sort of confuses people and they're like, wait, like it becomes intriguing and you want to sort of know more. So that's like the basics in the theory. Do you guys have any questions on that before I like show you examples of how like I put it into practice?
I think it would be so great to see some of the, especially like the mix of things, right? Like seeing some of the embodiment of this as like an author, because like for us, like this makes so much sense because we've worked in branding and stuff, and
Yeah.
it's just like also such a great encapsulation of something that is often spoken about in a very complex way because I don't know, people get weird and they just overcomplicate things, and so you really like encapsulated it so nicely and also made it like so book friendly like bookish people friendly, so I love that.
Amazing.
Yeah, this is really fun. Like I can see like where I've blended a couple of different things and like you perfectly like it's like kind of creepy because you've nailed like the colors, the fonts, like the imagery, like all of it. I'm like, whoa, like get out of my head here. Like so I'm excited.
You're like, oh, I did the right thing then.
Like, yeah,
And like that's why like I'm always surprised when someone says that. I was like, oh yeah, it works.
My business brand and my author brand too, and how there's a little bit of overlap even between those. So
Yeah.
that's really fun.
Another thing I wanted to add to that you're just saying is, you know how you have I always say that you have two, like multiple brands as an author. So you have your initial brand, which is the homepage, which is you, right? You're the one building all these worlds. And then each book has its own brand. So when I say, for me, in terms to create like a consistency across your world and your universe, like the different universe that you're creating, I say keep the typography the same across everything because your voice is sort of the signature thing. And then you can play with, the color and imagery when you're in the different books so that it feels like you're immersing into different worlds. And I'll show you how I did that with different authors, being like, this is their book. And a lot of times like authors match their book style, and some don't. So I will show you without, further ado. I'll show you like different types of genres completely. So I'll start with, these are surprises for me as well. Okay, so Patricia Wilson, she is a Regency romance novelist, and this is basically her brand. And then we go into the book, and it goes. Let me just show you. And then like this is her brand as well. Like she's like really like soft Paris, and this is all about her. But then when you go into her book, and then she does art, and this is a little bit about her. But her book is a little spicy to say without saying it. And so let me just get into the trilogy. So she has her first book coming out, and this is how we immerse it into like that Regency era. And it's like a coming soon story. And this one we did use AI to sort of get that Regency, clips of the book to make it immersive, just enough detail to make you want to be like know more about the character, but not enough to like reveal too much about the plot. So this is just one example of, like a typical romance historical one. And then this one I'm really excited to share with.
That was my
So
favorite.
yeah. So this one, she's it's funny because she's like, I write so many different types of fiction. And like writing, I have nonfiction and fiction, and some is really dark, and some things are magical realism. And she's like, I want to just create portals into these different worlds. And she's actually based in Hawaii, but she grew up in Seattle. So she's like, I love that feeling of being like immersed in the fog, and I felt like I was just alone. So what we created is the scenery of Hawaii in the background, and then like the fog of like you're immersing yourself and like diving into it. So like capturing that feeling. And then I always say like say what your ethos is so people know what you're about. That's so important. And then social proof. And then this is where we have sort of like stepping into the door through the different writings that she has. And this is where we created
With that door.
Yep. And then like we did sort of like the different, like published words, like featured manuscripts. And this is like one example. Like you see her vibe, right? And she loves the color teal. So we did that everywhere. But this book, The Moment Before Waking, that she's querying, is completely different. It's about every time she goes into the dream world, it's like a 1950s, it's like a midnight library meets the time traveler's wife, and like you do the comp right in the beginning. And then you like meet the characters, so it's about her. And then when she goes into dream world, she like goes back in time and then in the future, and she's these two people. So like, see how it has a different vibe, but we still use the typography of the whimsy. So it has a little bit of like it's a serif, but it has a little bit of a character, right? It has like some thinned out. It feels a little bit whimsical and a little bit not traditional. So we keep that typography throughout like all her books and all the book pages. So this one was a really cool one to do. And like we have like more examples of her different books. And then like her about page, like she's like, "Oh, I'm made of stars." Like that's her thing. So we did a silhouette of her like made up of stars. And then like we, show a little bit about her, why she writes, and then we go back to the teal. So like that's how you can play with the book page and your author page and like keep it still feel part of the same family through typography and change the colors. So this is another one, historical fiction. Again, we use like because it's debunking and redefining historical fiction. So it's sort of the innovator. So we did a little bit of serif, but a little bit edgier because her novel is like mystery. So here we have like her book page, and this is just the homepage that we created for her. And let me show you this one. Okay, this one is what if Jackie Kennedy was the one who ordered her husband's assassination? So this is like an alternate reality. And again, using that sans serif, but a little bit weightier, sort of like alluding to like the Roman columns, like that political scene, giving that weight, but not being so serious because she's like the rebel at this one. And using like the orange and the blues, sort of being like the sage with the rebel, and we try to mix those twos, and this is a really like a classic example of that, and how we mixed and match with the really bold but then also alluding a little bit to the sage, and then how we did the silhouettes to sort of allude to that as well. So like you can play and give that dimension, and then we did the lines of like Jackie showing like an alternate reality, like this is not the reality or between the lines of what the story actually is. Okay, so then another one. She is like the lover here. It's very dreamy. She's all about like the wilderness, cottage core. This is her brand. And then her historical fiction is like based in Montana. And it's about like the stakes of the homecomers who came in the 18th century and the struggle. So like what I do here normally is like sort of do a cutout, and I love to use videos, and you can use it in free pick to find like really cinematic like B-roll films, and that's what really makes it immersive. So like you enter the book, and here again we're using the same typography because she is a little bit more like traditional in the sense of like the lover, and then we use like little scenes from the book that allude to certain like vibes, um and also like symbolism, like for example the lodgepole pine can only open in the fire, and it's sort of alluding, like I'm not gonna give spoilers, but basically a reminder that like well, she loves the lodgepole pine, and it's like it was a big inspiration because like sometimes the things that you think that will destroy you is the only thing that makes it like come to like seed, like it seeds into something else. So it's same, as you can see, the everything has the same formula. I'm gonna pause for a second. And speaking about AI, like search optimization, FAQs is everything.
Okay.
So everyone talks about SEO optimization, but AI optimization is why I include FAQs in all the pages. And you do it in the format that how people will say it. And that's what when they sort of scan your website, that's what they look for. So that is something to always have, especially with everything like asking people, like in AI chat GBT and Perplexity, people are asking like, what's the best book? What book is about this? Add your genre there, like make it very, very, very clear. And okay, so let me talk about this other author. She is another lover. And I want to show two different types of lover, but more in the spiritual sense. So
Okay.
she's like lover dreamer. And we use sort of again, Seraph, because she is a psychologist, but then we also wanted to use a little bit of the dreamer with like the connecting lines. So like that's how you can sort of merge two fonts, and like that's how you sort of just start, decoding things. And then like, we used like imagery of because she's all about spiritualism and awakening. So we're like the prince of flowers and using with like gradients, and using colors that you wouldn't think of, and like about like the auras in everyday items. So like sort of changing the way that you see everyday things. And then we display both like her book, her autobiography, and then her children's book in here. And again, using that same, and then this is her about page. Like she wanted to show like her, just awakening, coming like all the energy coming through her head. And then this is just her story. Again, you can like just showing how the archetypes can be so different for every single person. Because then your personality and your experiences really mold how you like interpret the lover. And that's why I think it's sort of like a fingerprint. Let me show you, and then these are children's books, but I want to show you one that I am working on now that I think you guys will like because I was saving this one for last, is a fantasy novel list. So this one hasn't been like debuted yet, but this is her, and she's like, I really like the feeling of like abandoned places. So we found this image um as the set for her vibe and her author book. And then this is the like book one of the Abandoned Gods. And I'll show you like again that like ethereal, like magical forest world of just where the book is based. And basically the big question is like, what if the gods' greatest weapon was their own forgotten humanity? And like, and then you have like that join the wait list. And you know, we're still working on this, but we go into the characters and just it gives you the vibe. And she had a very clear like what she wanted each book to be. She's like, I wanted this one to be green, this one to be blue, and the third book to be red. And she had like the symbolism for each one. So we created that. And you know, just like making you feel really immersed into these worlds. And she is 100% the sage and dreamer. Or not 100%, 50-50. So we built that archetype on that.
That's such a great formula for that. I am obsessed. The one you're working on right now, the one with the gods. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm already on. Like put me on the waiting list. I want to read this.
Yeah, I was like, I want to read this. And like that feels like aesthetic. Like it makes me think of my book. And I'm like, oh, I need to get into writing my book now. I'm like,
That's like way too
so
right.
yeah, definitely need to connect with you for marketing for I think both my business, my editing brand, and my book brand. Because oh my goodness, all of this is just amazing. And I think what's really cool here that I noticed across a lot of these, how we were talking about the best time to start marketing your book was like yesterday, is that not all of these books are actually out. And so I noticed that, like, how you were building the hype, building the marketing, building that SEO all in there without the book being done. And I think that's so important, right? Like, we can always change a date on something. Like, it's not set in stone. So that made me very excited to like, because my very analytical brain too, even for me, even though I know I should be marketing, I'm like, ooh, but I need to have like this much done before I should really do that. But having it ready like this, I think also as an author is motivating because if I need to, like, if I'm having a slump and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so tired from work, from life. And if I just pull up my website and if I was this author and I pulled this up, I'd be like, all right, I want to jump back in this world right now. And like that would give me
Yeah.
inspiration and motivation as a visual person to want to get into my story and just kind of use that even as a writing ritual. Like Nino talks about building your writing ritual. I'm just going through and just looking at that imagery, looking at the text, and getting my mind mentally prepared to then go in and write or edit on my book.
Yeah. And also, like, I love on here how she has the 3 books because I'm sitting here like, okay, like I see how with some of the books you had the video behind it and the thing, and it's just like this is the vibe and everything. But with this one having like a book with just something on it. And then I'm like, because my book series is a 3-book series, and only the first book is written. And it doesn't have a cover, it doesn't have a publisher yet. Like that's the whole thing. And so I'm like, this is what I would want to do for mine. And I love the color thing. I'm like, yes, because like also the color thing is for mine and stuff. And then to see like just a visual that represents just a symbol that represents kind of what's the vibe of the book without it being officially a book cover. Like you look at that and you know it's not the official book. And so and just like having a coming soon or, like the date or like I am obsessed with this and I cannot encourage our listeners enough. If you are writing a book, if you are planning on writing a book, if you are like self-publishing, if you've already written and published your books, like talk to Maite about your website because this is professional, like high end level website design. And not to mention, okay, I know that people are like, yeah, but how much does she cost? Her prices are so freaking reasonable. I cannot even tell you. Like when she told me what her like package price was, I was like, my flappers were gasted because this is such high level website design with so much intention and thought behind it that I was like, no way. Because like, even if you just do it yourself, like if you go about it and do it yourself with just listening to this and stuff like that and trying to do it yourself, like it's going to take you so much time and so much frustration, not to mention the cost of like the website and things like that. And so it's just going to be, I just cannot sing her praises enough.
The other thing what I always say is like, and what I loved that you both said is when you have it in writing and when you have it in your website, it is a long, lonely process to do it alone. And you sort of can manifest what you want. So, like, for the example, she has like book one, October 26th. These are like reach goals. If you have it in writing, you're literally announcing to everyone, like one agent, that you're ready, that you're taking this serious. And I have two more examples to show you. She is right now like in the editing phase. So this is another book. It's Rebel Lover. So basically like she's like loved Sarah J. Maas, but she's a lawyer. And she's like not all here, like not in the fake courts. Like how do we create this like modern love that's not in these fantasy worlds, but in like sort of like the Union ground and the picket fence. And like she also has like tattoos in the style. But like what I wanted to show is all the way in the bottom where she has her like actively querying. She has aiming for an October 31, 2026 launch. So like that's like in her head what she want her goal. And she's letting other people know like she's serious and she's motivated to like launch it, this year. Even if it doesn't, like you're already telling people who are gonna like reach out to you, being like, I'm motivated. So even just telling people what your agenda is important. This is another one that's a work in progress that you guys are also gonna really love. I we're literally just did the homepage, but again, like she does dark fantasy, and we found this video, and it's very immersive. But then like it shows like her book, and obviously it's not loading right now, but well, I don't know what's going on here, but let me just show you the book page. And it's about basically a discovery of witches. If you love like Discovery Witches, Legendborn, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, like this is the book.
Yes, yes, and yes.
Exactly.
I
And then
need this.
and we have like people peek and buy right now because it's part of like a template, but it's going to be like, coming soon or actively querying. So like we're trying to figure that out, and like the houses, and like, it's a work in progress, but I just want to show you like with so little, having the right imagery, the right typography, right? This is a dreamer hero, like, and you can just play around with it. So I just wanted to show you, like, it's sort of like in a way manifesting.
Yeah,
And there
that
a lot
I'm
of
obsessed with that idea of like like using this not only as a source of accountability to keep you going, because you're like people are seeing this because you can see on your website that people are seeing your website.
yeah,
Like people see this, people signing up to like stay up to date on the book release. All of those things, like the accountability portion of it, but then also the manifestation portion of it. So like sending it out into the world and the universe to be like, hey, I'm ready for this author career to go. So let's go, obsessed. I'm like, okay, like this is what I need to do for my thing now, for my
and
books now.
also two things that you can do, like in what I say, like Kelsey has a really thing, she's like get inserter access. She's still writing the book. So she's like follow the like story while it's being written. And like the whole trend of 2026, I think we're in 2026. What year is it? Is really people want to co-create. But like it is a lonely process. Invite people in, being like, hey, like I'm trying to like figure out the name of this character, this is their vibe, or this is the book cover. Like which ones do you like? And then that's also sort of market research. Which one's gonna be more like viable, like mom brain. I don't know. But like I don't that's not the word, but which one is gonna be more marketable? You can do it as you're deciding along, or like maybe you're really stuck. Give it to the audience, and like maybe they'll give you some inspiration. Another idea that I do have, if you don't want people to follow the process, is like start a book club about all the books that inspired you to write your book. And then finally, when you're ready to release it, you're like, all these books that we read together or like that I shared along the way inspired me to write this book. So then you've already created your niche. And so like that's another, there's like so many, I have like a whole like ideas that you can slowly build onto that and have people follow you in the journey, and then you can just like rift, like and sort of, and then they're more invested because it's like, oh, I was there from the beginning, you know what I mean? Like I saw it happen, or I was there part of the world building, and like now I'm invested in this world and in this character, and I want to know their story. So that's another little tidbit that you can do, so you don't feel so alone in the process.
That's awesome. It's like that fun collaborative stuff, like where we're always like, bring in your writer community. I love that, bringing in your reader community. And, but just think of how excited we get when we see like little like snippets and things leading up to a new show release, right? Like for the Stranger Things, how they like stage released it Then they had like all the little commercials, little tiny things. And every time you saw something like, can't wait, can't wait, can't wait, you get more and more pumped.
Mhm.
But then also the book club idea, I thought that was so fun because you're bringing in people that you know like your genre, but then you're sharing about other authors. And as authors, we love to promote and share each other because we can never write enough books to satisfy the audience. So, if you're sharing that, tagging the authors and that, you're talking about, even just sending them a little note on the side of, how I love this book so much, you inspired me, whatever, or not even telling they were inspiration, just, what you liked about their book. And I loved it so much that, I'm sharing this with my community and we're doing a book club. And who knows, they may then be like, oh, let me come and chat with them or tag me in the post and, things like that. And that's just building your network and expanding your author community as well as building your audience.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's such a good idea.
Yeah, and also I just, especially two of those websites, they just spoke to me so hard that I'm like, I need to read these books. And I had absolutely no idea other than just like that quick little like, well, this is about this. No idea what it's about. But just because of the overall vibe of everything, I'm like, I'm ready to read this book, sign me up. That
Mhm.
one and then the other one, just like I'm so obsessed with it. And like that's what you want. Like you want people just like I'm in. And also to query, to have like, oh yeah, I have this waiting list already for this book. So, there's already 500 people ready to read this book. And that's just people who have just caught little old me up and decided to sign up. Like that's impactful in querying. So,
And then another thing that I wanted to add is when you're promoting other authors, you're normally promoting other authors that you like. You're also like the fact that you guys resonated so much with this and maybe not with another one. That's the point because you're filtering to
yeah.
your niche. You don't want to be for everybody. There is so many people in the
Mm.
planet. You want to find your tribe, and trust me, there's enough people. But like having that strong, defined personality will have the people that you want click and be really invested. And so if you
Mhm.
cater to everyone, you cater to no one. So like that's why like these websites are so different. But then you're like, oh no, this one's mine. Like in that
Yeah.
immediate reaction, that's what you want. And it's okay not to be for everybody. And like I think that's the point. Like you don't want to be. You want to be unapologetically you.
Especially if you
Share.
want to write one of those books that like truly is like a profoundly moving book for a reader. Like I always visualize like whenever somebody reads certain I have a client who's putting her story into a fiction, so her personal story into a fiction book. And I know bits about her personal story and it's like insane. And that's why it's going into fiction. And I just have this vision of somebody reading that book and just crying and holding onto that book because they feel seen and understood for the first time in their life. And if she tailors that to everybody, she's going to be taking out every single piece of that that's going to resonate with that one person and change their life because that is the impact of books. Books change people's life. They plant seeds that evolve into overall change. We are different today than we used to be because of Fahrenheit 451,
Mm.
because of The Handmaid's Tale. And if we want to write books that are going to create powerful change within a person or within society, we have to put our whole heart and soul into it. And that starts with being authentic as authors.
And like and leaning into it. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
another thing that I was surprised, like half my clients, they use a pen name. And I'm like, you know what? That's okay. If that makes it seem like if that helps you be more vulnerable and be like unapologetically you and like you're not that like do it. You know what I mean? Like that is so important to be your authentic self. So whatever it takes for you to like just really lean into what you like, your quirks, what made you you, your, like even your traumas, like you're funny because you're traumatic. You're like you had your traumas. Like whatever it is, just lean into it. Because the second that you're vulnerable, you realize that like more the people that you wanted to always talk to and to like resonate with actually
Mhm.
probably have similar stories and it's such a deeper connection. And that's what I try to do with branding. It's like so you can really speak to your people because we're all trying to find, like our place in this world. And I promise you, there's other people who are craving what you offer and like your vision of the world and what you want to like see. So that's what excites me.
Amazing. This was so wonderful. And I really hope all of our listeners and watchers, because I hope you're watching us on YouTube so you can see her amazing websites. I hope you guys have received so much insight from this. Where can everybody find you?
Yes. So you can find me on my website. I have actually free resources in order to like DIY a bunch of content. So maitedalila.com. It'll be in the, I guess, the show notes. And I also on Facebook, I'm always sharing like daily tips of things that you can improve, like little prompts. Just like, like whatever to inspire, and like make you want to share your journey or the world that you're building and like sort of just invite people in and talk about the things that actually excite you rather than it feeling like awkward and like really like empowering you to like want to share it because I feel like everyone has a story and like I really want everyone to share it because and like there's so many free resources on my website. And also just contact me with any question that you have. I'm more than happy to direct you with the like the right thing or answer the question. Pretty casual. I'm like not scary.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. I am so excited that you're our first guest of the season. And we will have all of the links to everything in the show notes. And yeah, and we will definitely be showcasing whenever you do our websites.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It was so much fun.
Thank you for listening. Check out the show notes for details and links from the episode. And don't forget to subscribe and follow for more. Special thanks to our composer, Micah Silverstein. Enjoy the rest of the music.